Hi, and welcome to the webisode Mr. Wilson Teaches How to Glaze. Glazing is the final step that you have to do for your clay project right before you put it in the kiln. To start, you're going to need all your supplies, which include your bisque ware, which is your piece of clay or ceramic that has already been put through the kiln. You're going to need the glaze of your choice, as well as a brush and a sponge. Typically you want to have a design in mind and decide what colors you want to do, and it's very important that you read the labels very carefully. So the glaze I've chosen is actually called Tahitian blue, and because glaze is chemicals and water mixed up together, it doesn't work the same way as paint. So this glaze might look yellow here, but after it goes through the kiln, it's going to become blue. So you have to read very carefully and match the picture up to decide what color you want it to be. You also have to make sure that your glaze is edible, which means you can put it on a food product and have it be safe to eat off of. This particular glaze says it's for decoration use only, and for this project it's fine, but if I wanted to use the color on something like a bowl or a cup, it would not be food safe and therefore I couldn't use it. So it's always important to look right on the label and make sure that you can eat off of it. Usually when I start with a glaze, I'll make sure it's capped up nice and tight, shake it up a few times to get all the chemicals suspended, and it works very, very quickly, especially if you have a big brush like the one I have. And because I'm doing a sculptural piece, this igloo, I don't have to worry about any of the bottom because you're not going to be able to see it. And you just apply it like you would paint. And what's nice about glaze is you can put it on a lot more sloppy than you could put paint. So it's sort of magical in the stuff it can do. If you want it to fill in a crack, it'll usually fill in a crack. If you put it on light enough and you don't want it to drip, it won't drip. So it really depends on what kind of look you're going for. And it might be hard to see on the camera here, but the glaze is being sucked right into the ceramic piece because it's very porous. And as I put this on, it's starting to lose its shine. You can see it's starting to soak right in. And typically you want to put on more than one layer. Usually with these commercial glazes, you can put on about 2 layers, sometimes 3, depending on how dark you want the color to be. And you want to make sure you get it in every single crack, especially if you're doing a food piece, for example your cup or your bowl. If you miss a spot, what can happen is food or some sort of drink can get in there, and when it goes into those cracks, it then can later draw mold. So you want to make sure you get it in, and you could potentially poison yourself. And I am doing right on the inside there because you will see that part. But you can see it's already starting to dry up, so in some areas it's still wet. You can see it's soaking in the other ones. And like I said, you want to do about 2 layers for each piece. And there's not really any rules in terms of what you have to do for glaze. Lots of artists tend to mix different glazes and see what effects they get. If you want to use more than one color, you can use more than one color on your piece. And you can also do things like wipe away certain areas and add on another layer. Or there's really no limit to what you can do with it. It's sort of an experimentation with the medium. For this piece, I'm just doing the solid blue. And this color actually turns like a light blue, and it's very glossy. And there's different types of glazes. Some are matte, some are shiny, some turn out with crystals in them. So you really want to look at the picture beforehand. Another important thing to note is you want to always have the bottom clean. And if you do get any on the side, which more oftentimes than not you will, you take a sponge, wet it, and just go right around the edge and get rid of all the extra glaze. If you mistakenly leave the glaze on there, what can happen is as it melts in the kiln, it can fuse to your kiln shelf, and then you're going to end up with either a broken piece, because when I try to pull it off the kiln shelf, it either breaks, or it'll be fused on there, and you won't be able to get it off, and you ruin the kiln shelf, which is very expensive. And that's the final piece. So this will go in the kiln, and depending on what temperature your glaze fire's at, this one's a 04, so it's going to be a low fire temperature. And when it comes out, it should be completely sealed. Like I said, this is going to be a gloss glaze and should be light blue. So you can tune into the next video to see the finished product.